What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, undefeated, newly crowned three-belt welterweight world champion superstar boxer who is widely considered by many to be top three best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, if not top two, if not number one best fighter in the world, and Errol the Truth Spence Jr. 28 wins, no loss, and no draw. 22 big wins by way of knockout. 32 years of age, 5'9.5" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, this weekend marked the date for the International Boxing Hall of Fame, and you had some huge names on deck being inducted into the Hall of Fame. You had Andre S.O.G. Ward, Juan Manuel Marquez, Miguel Cotto, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins. You just had a plethora of massive names that was inducted on Andre Ward into the Hall of Fame. Okay. And so with that said, another fighter, which is Errol Spence's biggest rival, an undefeated three-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, who is widely considered by many to be the number one best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, and Terence Bud Crawford, who has 38 wins, no loss, and no draw, 29 big wins by way of knockout, 34 years of age, 5'8" with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, they make up for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing, their rivals. And so Terence Crawford was on hand. He had his hand cemented and stoned in place for the Hall of Fame. And, obviously the topic at hand was, you had Antonio Tarver there as well. The topic at hand, James Toney was there. The topic at hand was, who's going to win? Who you think is going to win? Errol Spence, Terence Crawford. It looked like this fight is going to possibly take place October, possibly in November. And so everybody's curious to know, experts, former fighters, boxing pundits, media, everybody wants to know, who has the edge, okay, in this biggest fight in boxing. This is arguably the biggest fight in the sport of boxing since we had Tommy Hitman Hearns versus Sugar Ray Leonard. That took place back in September of 1981, okay? And this arguably is the biggest fight since then, most competitive fight. Now, obviously, revenue-wise, lucrative-wise, and record-wise, Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, that's the biggest fight in the history of the sport of boxing, and it will stay that way. I don't think that will ever be broken. But with that said, competitive-wise, it wasn't as competitive as it would have been when it first was being talked about in 2010, okay? But Floyd Mayweather, he dominated Manny Pacquiao. He was already 37 years of age. Manny Pacquiao was 35 years of age. So clearly they were past their prime. They wasn't the guys that, people expected to see, some years earlier. But nonetheless, to see Floyd Mayweather in one corner and Manny Pacquiao in the other corner, it was very intriguing, right? So this fight, though, you have Manny Pacquiao, who was brutally knocked out. Floyd Mayweather was 37 years of age. In his fourth fight with Marquez, Manny Pacquiao was brutally knocked out. So it had lost some of its luster, okay? And he had back-to-back losses with Tim Bradley, then being knocked out by Marquez. So the fight had lost some of its luster. In this case, you have two undefeated champions in Terence Crawford and Errol Spence at the height of their career, both considered to be the best two fighters in the world, okay? So with that said, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are 32 and 34 years of age, okay? Now, they're not the youngest fighters, but they're significantly younger than Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather was. And the fact that Manny Pacquiao had been knocked out 3 times before the Mayweather fight, and he'd been in some very serious fights, that, took a toll on it, and it took a toll on the actual product, the actual fight in the ring. This fight right here, has 90% of the chance to live up to the billing. And so that's why everybody's intrigued and interested to see it. But with that said, Errol Spence was picked again. Everybody picked Terence Crawford to beat Errol Spence. James Toney, he went as far as to say that, Errol Spence be lucky if he could make it to the 6th round. Okay. Antonio Tarver said that, Errol Spence doesn't make adjustments. Roy Jones said that Terence Crawford has been fighting a better opposition and is just more versatile, right? Floyd Mayweather, he said Terence Crawford is the best fighter in the world. So everybody is just picking against Errol Spence. And Errol Spence, he got wind of this. And once he got wind of this, Errol Spence let it be known. He said, F them all. Okay, as simple as that. Somebody tweeted out to Errol Spence, I think that the Hall of Fame was just focused on downplaying Errol Spence, right? So that's what he stated, and Errol Spence just said, yeah, F them all, right? So, that's because everybody was, and maybe because Terence Crawford was on hand, as I stated, was it because out of sight, out of mind? Errol Spence wasn't on hand. Terence Crawford was on hand, so everybody was just favoring and leaning towards Terence Crawford, okay? But nonetheless, the fight got to happen in the ring. Errol Spence responds, and it's not the same. It's not the first time you had Sugar Ray Leonard pick against Errol Spence Jr. I just simply believe that this is all going to be a motivating factor for Errol Spence. Errol Spence, he's already let it be known that he keeps a record of everybody who picks against him and everybody that says he can't do something. And so, Sugar Ray Leonard picked Mikey Garcia. Errol Spence looked up to Sugar Ray Leonard, right? That was his favorite fighter. And Sugar Ray Leonard picked Mikey Garcia, and his explanation for picking Mikey Garcia was simply, Mikey is Mikey. He's just a better boxer, right? And Errol Spence, he decided to just dominate Mikey Garcia at his game and just outbox Mikey Garcia. And Errol Spence, he let it be known after he dominated Yordenis Ugas in his last fight, April 16th, to become the 3-belt holder. He broke Yordenis Ugas' rib, nose, and orbital bone. He let the world know he kept a record of everybody picking against him, and it's a motivating factor. And here's another situation where you have everybody at the Hall of Fame, the big names, picking against Errol Spence Jr. Just a motivating factor, in my opinion. I think this is just a pick-me-up for Errol Spence. I think Errol Spence has now got his chip on his shoulder since suffering a horrific car accident, suffering a broken or detached retina. I think that this is just the added bulletin board material he needed. I think he was already motivated for this Terence Crawford fight, seeing as though everybody was saying he was avoiding it and pricing himself out. Now I think it just got even more significant for him. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button, drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Peace.
Oh, it is your boy Jada Kiss. Make sure you check out Blue Blood Sports TV. It's going down.